Hey there, Lisa Berry here. I'm going to do a tutorial today on taking a photo directly from the internet, importing it into the Silhouette Studio software, and printing and cutting it. So to start with, I have saved a photo or an image from the internet. I haven't altered it in any way. I didn't take it into Photoshop. This is basic. So I'm going to start by opening the file. File, open. And here's my file. You can see that there's a background here. There's some open kind of white area. I've got some texture in the background. I've got a shadow. And we're going to deal with all of that during the tracing. So the first thing we're going to do is open our trace window, which I have open right here. I'm going to select the area that I'm going to trace with by opening this bounding box. You just simply pull it around the image. I'm going to keep my bounding box as tight as possible so I can avoid a lot of extra texture that's going to come in from the background. I'm going to release the high pass filter check mark and use my threshold. Now we're going to start at 45%, and as we increase it, you're going to find that it's going to cover the image in more and more yellow. And because we have this shadow down here, it's going to start to fill in that shadow, and I'm going to deal with that after the fact. I just want to get the outline as clean as possible. I need to make sure that this is filled in and this is filled in, that I don't have any holes. So I'm going to take this up to about 84%. If I go higher than that, you can see I'm starting to get a little bit of speckling from the background, so it's kind of, I want to make sure that the image is covered enough, in addition to not wanting to pull in too much texture from the background. So I'm going to go ahead and leave the threshold at that. I'm going to trace the outer edge because there's nothing internal, there's no cutouts, there's no holes, and then I'm going to go ahead and edit this. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to move the image out of the way and take a look at this. Well, first thing I want to do is get rid of this right here. So I'm going to click on it twice, get the editing dots, and I'm simply going to remove these points. I've got my editing point window open and I'm hitting my delete point. When the point is active, it's going to turn white. My next area I'm going to do has to do with this area where the shadow is. So I'm going to zoom in so I can get a better look at it, and I have a feel pretty much that my bottom of my pear goes right here, so I have to delete this area. So I'm going to start basically where it starts to go off on that shadow. I'm going to start deleting points. And when you delete points, it's going to delete them in succession. So you can just sit here and delete all of the points until you get to the other end of this tracing path. And then I'm going to stop when I get to the end here. And I've got a couple extra little guys over here. I'm going to delete those. Wherever the path is broken, I have to start over. Okay, so now I don't want to leave this straight edge on the bottom, so I'm going to bring this image back over, and I can see I've lost this nice contour on the bottom of my pear. So I'm going to zoom in, double click on this line. I wish they would make that a little easier. And I've got my editing points back, and I'm simply going to click in the middle, pull that down to where I want it to be, a little bit inside of the line so that I don't get too much dark area down there. Now, if you like a little bit of shadow, by all means leave it in there. If you want to have that little shadow, you know, that's your choice. That's completely fine. There's no rule about that. I'm going to pull this little edge down here, and then it's got this little subtle indentation, so I'm going to give myself an editing point there by clicking on the area and just pulling it up, and then I'm going to slightly round this. This gave me my dot in the wrong area. I'm going to pull this over. So I'm going to have a little bit of a rounded space right there, and then I'm going to pull this down here, and I'm going to lift this lever up so I start to get a little bit of a contour right here. That's kind of funky right there. Let me fix that. I'm going to delete that dot. I don't like that one. Then I'm going to use this pull out right there. Let's see. That looks pretty good. I could move that in a tiny bit if I wanted to. And you can spend as much time on this as you want. If you're a perfectionist, by all means, perfection away. As long as I get this round shape in here, that's really what I'm concerned about. I don't want it to be a hard edge. Okay, that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to take a look around my image for things like this. I don't like that little jagged line. Obviously, we want to smooth that out. And the simple way to do that is just simply click above it and edit the points that are below it, and it will just smooth out and follow the contour of the previous dot. So that makes it easy. And I'm going to continue to look around. Here's some more. And this helps in the cutting too because it simplifies the path. I don't want to get rid of too much contour, so I'm going to be careful I don't end up with a straight line in there because I don't want that. That looks fine now. There's a little jug right here. Let me get rid of this one. Okay, that looks good. Now let's continue to move around. So I've got a little bump right here I can get rid of. Okay, that looks good. I'm going to look around this side now. Oh, there's a little funkiness in here. I'm going to take a look at this. Yeah. So we're going to delete these extra guys. And this one I'm going to leave. I'm just going to pull it in a little bit. And down here, this needs to be fixed. That one just going to be pulled down a little bit. Okay, that's good. And over here, I'm going to start with that one and delete that line a little bit. And what's happened is this was so light that it kind of lost this section right here. So I'm going to delete some, but I'm also going to pull some out a little bit. Let me start over here and get these guys cleaned up a bit, and then I can do a little bit more with this contour. So I'm going to pull this one up because this lemon has this nice contoured shape right here. There we go. I think that works now. Now remember, when you cut this whole fruit thing might only be, I don't know, if it's going on a card, 2-3 inches. So we're looking at it at about 15 inches now. So you have to keep in mind that, you know, not that much is going to show. When you pull out on this, you can see this looks nice. And I want to just make sure that I don't have any little bits that don't look nice to me. And what I also do is I'll pull a bounding box around it because I want to make sure there's no little dots anywhere. So, you know, that looks really nice. So I'm going to put this back in here now. So we're done with the tracing part, and you're probably thinking to yourself, okay, great, it's traced, but what about all this other stuff? I don't want that printing. Well, you don't have to worry about that because watch what we're going to do next. You're going to put a bounding box around both the image and the tracing line. We're going to come up to the top and we're going to go to Object, Modify, Crop. Ta-da! So now you're looking at this image and we have this beautifully cut out image, but you're saying, well, where's the trace line? Well, guess what? When you do that, the trace line goes away. So we're going to go back in and we're going to retrace it. But this time it's going to be really easy because we have edited all those points. We don't have a shadow to deal with. We don't have to worry about any of that, but we're going to just give ourselves that cut line. And we don't have background, nothing that we're going to have to worry about. So we're going to go back to the threshold. And we're going to just push it all the way to the top so we get every last detail. So we're going to put it at 100%. Trace outer edge. We've got a beautiful trace line now. There's nothing that we need to alter. I'm going to put the two of these together, both the image and the outline, because I'm going to group them because when I move them or scale them, I want them scaled or moved together. So now they're one, and I can easily scale this to whatever size I need for my project. So I'm going to make this small. This is so pretty. I'm going to make this I want this to fit on a card, so maybe about there. That looks good. And I'm going to zoom out so I have a better image of my mat here. And now I'm going to make my page smaller because I don't need a lot of paper wasted with registration marks. So I'm going to go to the paper, the page formatting, and I'm going to, these are the standard sizes, but I'm going to do a custom one because I know that my project here is about 2 by 3. So I'm going to go to, I need to have room for my registration marks, so I'm going to go 4 by 6. That way I can use a standard size piece of paper. 6 by 4. Still looks like a lot of paper, but when we put the registration marks in, it can take up a lot of space. Now, some people like to make the registration marks very thin by adjusting this. From my own personal experience, what I have found is that if I make my registration marks too small, if I'm cutting something very intricate, I can lose some of the little details. So I tend to keep mine on the larger size, and I'm fine with that. Again, this is your personal preference. You can do whatever you want. So now we're going to go ahead and print this. So I'm going to open my printer right here, and I'm going to make my selection. I am working with an Epson 1400, which is a 12 by 12 large format printer. And I'm going to go to Preferences, and I use Best Photo. And what I like about going into the preferences is I'm going to tell it exactly what paper I'm going to use. Now for my elements, I'm going to use presentation paper and matte, but I'm going to cheat it a little, and I'm going to tell it I'm using glossy photo paper because I find that the color comes out really, really nice. And then I'm going to go to my paper size, and I've selected a standard size, which makes it easier. I can just do that, and I've got landscape, and then I always do print preview in addition because I want to see that the registration marks are there before I print it, so I'm not wasting anything. And you'll be able to see my preview. So perfect. Now I've got my preview here. I've got my beautifully cut fruit. I've got my 3 registration marks, so I know I'm good to go. I'm going to go ahead and print this. Now I'm not going to actually print it, I'm just simulating it for you, so I'm going to close this and say no. And then after I've printed it, I'm going to take it out of my printer, put it on my mat, and I'm going to make sure that I've got my piece of paper set up on my sticky mat exactly the way it is here. So I've got my 4 by 6 piece of paper, I've got my element printed in the middle, I've got my registration marks showing. You're not going to get all this cross hatching, but you are going to get these black marks. And I'm going to stick it down on my mat exactly like this. So now I'm going to send it to the silhouette cutter. So I'm going to click on that. My cutter's off. I'll just turn it on. Doesn't really matter though. Now I'm going to skip the printing because I've already done that. I'm going to hit continue, and the first thing I'm going to do is have it automatically detect these registration marks. So it's going to scan those 3 marks, and mine is doing that right now. I don't know if you can hear it. There you go. And it's going to tell me it didn't find them. So I'm going to close this so I don't have to make it work hard. And that's basically it. You've now cut it, and you're going to have a beautiful JPEG element to put on your projects. Thank you so much for listening and watching this today. And come visit me at http://lisaberry.blogspot.com. Thanks so much. Bye-bye.